Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance is Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. We just took a look at the 3 items that were back ordered from Cyber Monday. And on that note, earlier this week, ordered these. And unlike those items that left Kansas and went to San Antonio and Dallas before backtracking my direction, these actually left Kansas and came straight to me, which is why I got them the same week I ordered. That's always nice to see that the post office can figure out the path of least resistance, right? So long story short, why did I bring this stuff in? Well, tool of the day got me, and anytime I get the tool of the day, I figure, hey, if it's close, might go ahead and try to get free freight, and that is what I did. So what goodness awaits us inside the box? Well, let's find out. So I cut it open, obviously just get my packing slip out, and we will roll this to the side. That was packed very well, I have to say. We got our bit-o things right here. We got a Felo number 2 bit, which again, always cool to build up a stockpile of those suckers. And I guess we'll just get started with what? Yeah, this will be fun. So right here, this is going to be interesting stuff for us, and I've got plans with this, so just bear with me, because eventually, over time, it'll all make sense to you while I'm bringing this stuff in. You'll be like, oh yeah, that's cool. Nice little project. So let's get started with the simple stuff here. This, as you can see, is from Wera. That's their Zyklop's line. And it is simply just a 1/4-inch drive extension. That's all it is. It is a Wobble. And again, this is just me kind of bringing stuff in that I have plans for in the future and to get free freight. Which every little bit helps, and this was $8.22 towards that goal. And if I wouldn't have bought it, I probably would have paid more than $8.22 in freight. That's my logic. That's what I always have done, and I'm going to stick to it. So that is that. I'm trying to figure out, I've never seen anything quite like that in terms of how it's secured. So I don't know if it's going to be super easy or a complete pain to get out of there. Probably going to do that off camera just to save us some time. We'll take a look at that once I get it freed. And then this one, I have no idea what to expect, but I was pretty excited. I think that guy was about, what, 3 inches maybe? Maybe a little shorter than that. This one here, though, if you take a look at it, is also from Wera, obviously. This is going to be their flexible lock extension. It's 150 millimeters long on that one. That Wobble was 56 millimeters. Which for an SAE man like myself, couldn't tell you what that translates to, but this would be about 6 inches. How about that? So I will do the same thing. We're going to actually off camera take this apart, get it freed from the hanging tag, and then we'll sort of see how it works. And I realized also I didn't grab a 1/4-inch ratchet, which is kind of important for this stuff. So we've got those 2 things going for us, and this box right here makes sense to just knock it out. What is this, you ask yourself? Well, this is a set of 1/4-inch sockets from Wera. This is their Zyklop line. Again, clean, simple packaging. Nothing wrong with that. Where's my knife? Over here. So, I was actually surprised at the price point on these. Had I have known they were this cheap, I probably would have brought them in a while back. But $18.44, I believe I've got a 7-piece set in here. And, would I like to have had another size bigger? Possibly, but again, you're dealing with 1/4-inch stuff, so I mean, you got to give people slack in that regard. First impression here, these look freaking sweet. So, 6-point is my preference. You do get the socket rail for free, and it does have 3 extra clips should you want to do anything downsize, or maybe use 1/4 all the time, don't want to ever be without it, you can add that in, so on and so forth. The cool thing about these, they will sit flat in your box. You can have them flip down, which that's what I've done for years. Or if you are the hanging type, you can go that route as well. If you wanted to mount it like this for some crazy reason, you just drill another hole. No, there's actually one there. It's just covered up by a clip. So yeah, whatever you want to do, you can pretty much accomplish it. But as you can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My mistake, I thought it was 7 for some reason. But the neat thing, at least I think is neat, we start with 3/16. So this orange socket here, you kind of got knurling, and then you've got color coding. But you also have sort of an etching there, which I'm sure over time that'll come off. But the color coding, since it's recessed, I think that might last a while. I could be wrong, but, you know, what I plan to do is have this bench top, so it's not going to be subjected to, like, super nasty tough jobs, plus anything like that. would be 3/8, half, or 3/4 drive anyway. So these should stay pretty, and we'll just kind of keep tabs on how long the etching lasts. But we've got 3/16 in orange. Our yellow ring there is going to be indicative of the 1/4 inch. The blue, which that's a pretty nice blue, sort of like our Mopar blue down there, right? A little bit brighter maybe, but I mean, just, you get the idea. Similar. All right. 5/16. Red is 3/8. 7/16 right here. Realistically, if they would have stopped at 7/16, I would have been okay with that. I can kind of understand it. But we do get a 1/2 inch drive socket as well. So 9/16, 5/8. I don't think you're really going to be doing much with a 1/4 inch drive, right, with 5/8. But I think that's a decent set, I would have to say. I feel like it's going to cover, what, like 98% of everything you'd ever encounter and be wanting to do with something that small. So the sockets look really nice on the rail, but what do they look like in hand? And is that a twist lock? Nope, that's the old cheap style like I use, so it's very familiar. You just pull it on and off until it loses its tension and spring, and you can't do that anymore. But if we can get that to kind of come in for us, we've got the Wera branding. Should have probably picked the bigger sockets to show you this, right? Would have made more sense, but where's the challenge in that, right? So 3/16 is on the neck. Down here towards the base, you got Wera, I believe. That's 8790 HMA, which is probably a standalone part number. Essentially, if you were to lose this and you're like, oh no, that's the one that I use the most, you could come in and get a standalone one, kind of take care of yourself that way. Problem with that is it's to a point where, if they're $3.50, $6 a socket, you can almost come in and get another set, for just a couple bucks more. So keep that in mind. But I've got to say, this feels pretty good in hand, and it is the smallest one, so that means that the larger ones are even going to be easier to handle and manipulate. But right there, the color coding, again, you always hear, some people love it, some people hate it. I think it looks pretty good. But again, we'll kind of see how it lasts over time. So we'll stick that guy back on. Let's see. I'll give you an idea of how the tension is here, I guess. We'll just go for the 3/8. Would have helped if we weren't zoomed in and you could have seen that. But we'll get it next time. So red, that's going to be our 3/8. You can see that way better. And again, satin finish. It's nice. It's not slippery. Some people love chrome sockets. Some people don't. That's typically all I've got outside of the impact stuff. But the satin stuff, kind of like it. Got to admit, I'm not a big chrome guy, in all honesty. So in terms of cars anyway, sometimes yes, sometimes no. But got to say, their initial impression, pretty good. There's the business side that we should actually be paying attention to. And I tell you what, to make all of our lives easier, let's get this in frame. Get that kind of squared up for you, if I can. There we go. And we will pull off the seafoam green turquoise guy, right? So this will give you an idea of the tension. Again, this is just like the cheap rails I use, so I have no issues with it. But our seafoam green one right here. Come on, man. We were doing such great things. Oh, man. All right. We'll just roll with that. This is our 1/2 inch, as you can clearly see finally. And I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed initially. Now, how they perform over time, that's another story, but knocking it out of the park thus far. So there we are with that setup. That's probably an important text, but we'll pretend it isn't. I'll actually leave that off for when I grab the ratchet in a second. This right here, though, this is the reason I ordered. This is the tool of the day. I think KC Tool called it the Little Red Dragon or something like that. And this is an automatic wire stripper. Truth be told, I have never in my life used one like this. Everyone has their preferences. I know people that can somehow chew through the insulation on small gauge wire, of course. Some people use the old school, like rounded off on both sides, love them flawlessly. They can somehow pressure point down perfectly and then pull them off, or then use their mouth to chew the wire off, type of a thing, spit it to the side with pinpoint perfection to the workbench or the trash can. For me, I always use the expandable style, and I'll grab those too when I get the ratchet and kind of show you. But I've never used these. I've got a rewiring job ahead of me. I will have to be doing a ton of the connections manually. And I figured, what better time to give this a go. This thing right here would typically retail for just under 30 bucks. I think 28, 50, 60, something like that at KC Tool. virtually everyone makes something like this. VHA, Knipex, everyone, and price just kind of goes up. This is actually, I believe, the cheapest of the German ones. Capri had one that I nearly bought myself on Black Friday, and I talked myself out of it because it wasn't on sale, even though it was like 15 bucks. But if I like this thing, that'll be an option for the future. It looks like there is a 15-year warranty on this thing, so we'll see how that holds up. Just looking at this type of design, if you use it regularly, I don't know about 15 years out of this one. We'll take them at their word, though, and I suppose we can get it replaced for free if it does fail. So it looks like you're going to come in and you can adjust the depth right there in that picture. Keep forgetting this is zoomed in a little. Then we're going to squeeze down, strip it, and it looks like we have something up at the top as well. So, English, English, English. Alright, automatic adjustment for conductor cross-section. Damage to conductor is no longer possible. That's probably worded a little differently than it translates, but you get what they mean, and that's understandable. Suitable for all common stranded and solid conductors from, we're just going to go with 24 to 10 gauge because that translates better for me. Obviously don't use that on a live circuit. Strip length from 6 to 15 millimeters. Insert stranded or non-stranded conductor. The tool automatically adjusts itself to the conductor cross-section. Press tool to close, then open again. Finished. Wire cutter for up to 2.5 millimeter. To cut wire, open the tool again, slightly insert the wire, and press to close. Finished. So, strip, cut, pretty simple. Let's go ahead and see if I can't get this guy out of the packaging. Very clean, very simple packaging. I appreciate that. No hoops to jump through, no crazy tools were involved to get to that point. It's a nice looking tool, right? And again, this is one of those things, if you have this one at the job site, everyone's going to know it's yours, right? Until you get somebody else hooked and then they have one too. Then you have to come in and put your name on it. But feels decently solid. Anytime I deal with anything plastic, I kind of get a natural apprehension to it. So, color scheme, not my ideal colors, I'll be honest, but of course, kind of provides visibility, safety, sort of that type of a thing. So, let's take a close look. This is where we would be cutting wire. You kind of see the blade on this side, and if we were to insert that, you can kind of size it up, squeeze it. That's where the cut would be made. As it's actually coming down, I guess that's the blade. No, yeah, it's the blade where I said, and then this is just coming, and that's what's going to actually have your anvil action cut it. Looking at the stripping side, they've got the gauge here, 6 to 15, as they said. 6 to 15 there too. Would have been cool in my opinion, because you got to realize I'm old school, SAE. Would have been nice if we had a slight nod to the old school people, but everything's metric. You eventually figure it out, just kind of match it right. But we would come in, this is going to be our trough right here. We would stick the wire in, we would come in, we would strip it. So what I will do, I'm going to go grab a quarter drive ratchet. I'm going to figure out how to get this stuff off, and then we will come in. I'll see if I can't find some wire for us to play around with. We'll take a look at all this stuff and see how well we like it in a little bit more action. Quick update on the current status of my life. Alright, we are back. In full disclosure, it's been probably a little bit over a week. Things have been nutty here, super busy at work, traveled over the holidays, all that kind of stuff. That said, we've got some updating to do. So this little extension here, our Wobble 1/4 inch drive from Wera, that one was 8794A, right? And then this next one, 8796A, that's our locking longer extension, which I have used it. I actually do like it. That's one good thing about this video getting drug out. What I don't like is this. And if you're like, man, what is that? Just some random, plastic trash in your hand? That would be an accurate assessment of indeed what is in my hand. And long story short, I had left off. We, ended with the Felo wire stripper, said I was going to go grab a ratchet and some other things. Wound up having to go back in. I was freezing. Needed to go to the bathroom, if I remember correctly. This came out just fine. I had pretty much zero issues with that, and I told you it would either be really easy or extremely difficult, and I didn't know. Based on what I experienced there, I thought everything was going to be fine. Then we move on to this guy, right? This was such an ordeal, it almost makes me, and I did like this, as mentioned, I was out here, I guess, yesterday afternoon or Saturday. yesterday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, using this on something, and it's actually pretty freaking cool. It works better than I thought it would. But what I didn't like is what I had to go through to get it to a point that it could be used. So as you can see, this one snapped off similarly, but the problem is everything broke off on the interior of that. I had to resort to using precision screwdrivers. I had to resort to using needle nose. I attempted drilling it out with a tiny drill bit. It was an absolute nightmare. Long story short, the champion of the day was once again my little channel locks here, which there's a reason that's my favorite pair of pliers. And once I was finally able to get all the plastic out, there was enough material in it. It's very hard to explain without you seeing it. But that's a pretty deep cavity, and there was like a plug of plastic about that big, right? And it was either recessed all the way, which then if you're like, well, screw it, I'll just use my ratchet, you can't. It sticks up too tall, right? And so then you're like, well, I'll get it out, and it catches because it's flared, and it was just ridiculous. If you are thinking about purchasing any extensions, regardless of the brand, if Wera is on your mind, keep this in mind. It could either go extremely well like it did with our little Wobble, or if that square hub of plastic breaks off in there, be prepared to lose a significant amount of your free time, and that really did suck. But the good news is that thing is actually, I know it kind of looks gimmicky and dorky, but the truth is when you've got your tool holder here, whether it's a ratchet and bit drive or whatever it might be, if you're up top and you're able to then come in and hold here, it works so good. You can kind of get a feel for it there, and that's what I was optimistic about. And as I mentioned, once I got this to where I could use it, I actually do like it. I would like to purchase an extension like that in 3/8, assuming they make it. I just don't know if I want to go through having to open it. So much so that I'm going to check what my other options are. But once again, just kind of, this has been, like I said, it's very hard to make a video when there's this big of a lapse in between it, but basically 822 for our little 56mm guy, this 6-inch extension with the little plastic spinners, which also locks, which, some people like it, some people don't. Price on that was $12.33. Our socket set, $18.44. I did mention that I thought this was a standalone part number on the socket. It is not, because I looked and they all have the exact same number on them, so, you're welcome. Caught the mistake before someone else had to point it out. Price on that set, which again I thought was pretty decent at $18.44. That's just kind of like standard, no special sale or anything on it. So that was decent. And the price on this guy, $14.99. What I want to do real quick though, the only 1/4-inch drive ratchet I have, which spoiler alert, so that may be changing soon, is the Craftsman. That's what I'm sure many of you will have to relate with. But right here is our Wobble, right? And listen to the fine, I don't even know what tooth count this is. This is back before people advertised a tooth count, right? But it is US-based Craftsman. Again, I've had this since I was 12, 13, something like that. So there's our Wobble. And then this guy right here, though, as much of a pain as it was, I really like it. Case in point, instead of having to come in if you're vertical. Now, if you're underneath something, it might be a different story. But as long as you're up on top, you're able to come in and you can just kind of hold that. And it works really well. It's one of those things, I feel like if you experience it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Looks really stupid, I'll be the first to admit. Looks cheap, but it works very well, and I honestly do like it. The way I believe this works is just like plastic collars. There's 2 tabs. There's one where my index finger is, and the second, obviously opposite of that. So the way it works, I think there's just kind of a little landing sort of milled out or etched into it. Looks like it's honestly just kind of milled out. And so they turn that down, we clip that on, we've got a second one, and it turns out to be pretty freaking cool. This is also the longest 1/4-inch drive extension I have now. So it should be seeing frequent use. I'll be able to keep tabs on how well the plastic holds up. This little guy here, if you're kind of leery of nut drivers or something, you can kind of make your own set with shallow sockets as long as you don't need a pass-through style. Works very well with this spinner handle. And like I said, I mean, this is a pretty substantial length for 1/4-inch drive extension. It was 150mm, 6 inches. Case in point, which one's longer? Look at that. Pretty much the exact same overall length there, with our Stavilla spinner, and then of course the new extension handle. Last thing I think I wanted to do is come in and actually see what this thing works like, right? So we'll do that relatively quickly, provided I don't choke. Nearly brought some water. So this is just 18 gauge speaker wire. We're going to come in, if you have forgotten, which you probably didn't, because unlike me, you're getting to see this all at the same time. We'll just cut about right here. So this is supposed to cut wire. Let's see if it does. Might have been a little too much for her. I think it was just a tad too tall, because what it did cut, it cut very well. But the good news is we can fix it like that. So obviously we don't want to put the tool through too much here right off the bat, so I'm going to strip this down. The cool thing about speaker wire for projects or just testing, you get double the pleasure, double the fun, right? So what we're going to do, never use this thing, never played with it yet, so you're going to witness it for the first time. I'll hold it very strangely and awkwardly for the sake of getting a good view of it. So we're going to feed it in that manner, right? Sort of the dragon's tongue now, right? We've assembled the dragon. That's kind of what it looks like. So you can see the wire here. Let's go ahead and get it closer to the camera. Once again, if you're not filming and have a tripod in front of you, this would probably work way more fluid. But let's watch the magic happen, shall we? Alright, so it looks like we will have to finish at least at that depth. Now, let's come in here and I will cut this. Again, we've shortened the strand, so this clearly fits within the confines. I realize that's not focusing too great, but as you can see, that came off just fine. What I want to do now, we were at max depth there of 15 millimeters. We're going to go ahead and bring it up a little bit. Again, I do personally wish one side was SAE, but you can only work with what you got, so we will make the most of it. We're going to come in now. We've got it set a bit shallower. And that actually popped out. Now, some people like that. Some people hate that. It's much more convenient. Unless, of course, you're the person that also has to clean up, which you probably are. So take all that with a grain of salt. But we can get a nice length. That would be just a little too long for most things, so we'd shorten the depth. But I've got to say, it seems to work fairly well. Let's go ahead and bring this up. Make the shortest strip we can now. So we are actually knots. I will say one complaint right now, I don't like the way this plastic slides at all on the depth adjustment. That's kind of janky, but once assuming, and let's say you're doing this for repetitive use, or you're rewiring your car, you're doing stereo, security systems, panels, whatever it may be, you're probably going to have the exact same length that you want to strip every single time. Once you set that properly the first time, that would become a moot point. If you do plan to adjust this, that would be my first knock on the tool. That does not slide fluidly, and it is plastic, and plastic is something that tends to break. So you can see how much shorter of a strip we're going to do right here. Works really well. Again, it does fly out, but it's stripping quite nicely. So might make use of that now. I just kind of, from time to time, like to throw in bonus content. I could make a longer video on this, but I'm going to pull this apart on the other end. And these, I can't remember if I made a video on them or not. I was kind of building like a cheap but decent toolbox. And these are not my Channel Lock 909s that I love so much. These are the 908s. The 908s, this is what you get. This is the old school El Cheapo style strippers, and I hate them. It's nothing against Channel Lock. It would be nothing against Klein. It would be nothing against Knipex. I just do not like this type of tool. It goes back, I've had many bad experiences. They never cut well. They've never impressed me. So here we are. We're in the correct slot there. This is 18 gauge, which is the near the top. 20 to 22 would be as small as we'd want to go with this. And there we are. So to the credit, Channel Lock did its job. And the crazy thing is, I know a lot of people that actually prefer these. They've tried everything. They've got the fancy Kleins, you know, the split joint ones. They've got the cheap imported stuff. They've got fancy brands. And I know people that still swear by these. And I am not one of those people. Now, it will work. It will get the job done. But what I actually like, and I think I will probably catch a lot of flack for this because people always make fun of me for liking this better. Many years ago, I bought this, I think just because I was in need of some insulated spade terminals, and as fate would have it, I needed like 20 of each, right? And when I went to price them out individually, it was actually cheaper to buy a kit, which at the time included this, than it was for me to get the 20 male, 20 female, and something else I wanted that was in the kit. So I pulled the trigger on it, and I thought, yeah, that's stupid. You know, that's not going to be a good tool. It actually is. And this one came from Summit. Virtually everyone has one of these. I'm very tempted to pull the trigger on the Capri one, which is super cheap. Again, Capri's got something just like this Felo wire stripper. I think it's $14.99 all the time. That's what I paid for this one on KC Tool of the Day, of course. $28 would be like the standard price. If you are interested in this, but you like blue better, or you don't care about brands, you're willing to give a chance to Capri, whatever your logic may be, it will always be around the $15 mark. Same thing, these you can pick up for around $15. All sorts of companies have pretty much the exact same thing. These were probably made at the same factory, but this one, again, it's plastic. It will have limitations. It will break over time. But I gotta say, I have used it with great success, and if you've never seen this style in action, you put that in. I mean, that's very, very solid, very firm. It probably does help that I've used this, you know, for years and years now. But what I like best about it is it grabs that, and so you can come in. I typically, when I'm stripping a lot, I'll just have the trash can right beside me. I can just turn, dump, rinse, and repeat, right? But that's sort of just some bonus content for you. And what I would like to know, which style do you prefer? If this is all you've ever used, which of these two do you think you would like better? Now, the big advantage that these two have over this one, of course, is the fact that they can crimp. All right, we're not going to be able to really crimp here. Technically, I think we could swing something, but it would be a very bad idea, and it would probably break the insulation on what we were working with. But we could do it. So let's go ahead now. Since we're here, we'll come in, and like I said, this is not exceeding the blade height here this time. Again, if you were to double stack that, it just almost does. So there we go, we're cutting. Let's come in and do another short strip for you. Boom. These work really well, and again, it's going to come down to like personal preference in my opinion, but I am curious, if you have used all three of these, which one do you prefer? Obviously, we have to keep it limited to stripping the wire. Some people might love, and this actually does crimp well too, and I'm not just saying that. I prefer it over this style for crimping. Now, obviously here we can cut and shear bolt heads, but you know, to each their own. I typically prefer to use a beefier tool for that. But it's essentially the best all-in-one, right? It's going to do everything. It may not do it all super well, but it's going to get the job done. So, but as I mentioned, I know many people that do electrical for a living, and they swear by these. They all have their brands of preference, typically Klein, but it is what it is. I actually do not know where my open barrel Knipex crimpers are. Oh, they're holding... No? There they are. Okay. Right here. These I honestly picked up solely because they have the ability to crimp open barrel terminals, which turns out is quite difficult to find. But since we have them here, let's come in. We'll cut just for the heck of it. I haven't been in the shop in a while, so I don't know how 18 gauge converts to the metric system. We're just gonna pick one, and it worked flawlessly, even though I'm pretty sure I had the wrong slot by a size or two. So these, I have to say though, I have crimped with them, I have cut with them, I have stripped with them. They work really well, and again, my main purchase reason for this was of course the open barrel terminals, and it does those fantastically well. So with that said, I think we've covered everything from this unboxing, got the bonus content thrown in. Once again, I really do like this, I just absolutely hate that. So, for what it's worth, we're batting 50-50 right now. This one came out just fine. As you can see, this plug, I should have shown you this earlier, that chunk of plastic that's intact, still attached here to the hanger, that is what broke off inside this long extension, and I will tell you, it's not fun getting that out. So, I'll leave it at that. But, like I said, the good old 1/4-inch drive Craftsman. We will be looking to upgrade this guy, just because we can, kind of a deal. Nothing wrong with this one, but it's just something, you know, I kind of want to try some things out, broaden the horizons a little bit. So that'll be a project for another day. Again, my apologies. I realize this video is probably all over the place, but I did feel bad that it's kind of strung out, and I at least wanted to throw in the bonus content for you. So interesting thing, like I said, let me know which one you prefer. I think this one, again, if you are just intent on stripping, or you're going to stand there all day and strip, or maybe you're, you know, doing some project that requires tons of wiring work, if you don't mind having multiple tools, which I don't think you would, come in, and this would be a very nice option in terms of stripping the wire. So I'll try to use that as much as I can here coming up, and we will see how it holds up. But I had the truck running. I gotta go drain some oil. I have a fear that freeze plugs are popping out. That's another story in and of itself. It's KC tool unboxing. I can't remember what number this was. Very small one, but like I said, I've got some plans moving forward. We'll see how those pan out. But let me know your thoughts on this if you've used it. If you've picked up any of these extensions, whether they're, you know, quarter, 3/8, half, what have you. If you've bought anything from Wera that has this kind of like hanging tag, which would be like if you were in a retail store, of course, let me know if it broke clean or if you had a nightmare of a time with it, because like I said, I love this thing. I would like to have one probably a little longer in 3/8, but with the same collars on it. I just don't know if I want to run the risk of buying something that would have that plastic break off again. So with that said, also this thing's pretty freaking cool. I've gotten to use it quite a bit. So with that said, I will quit rambling. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on all this mess. The next video will hopefully be slightly more coherent. I can't make any promises, but I'll do my best. And in the meantime, make sure you're following us on Twitter. You can like us on Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. And until next time, I will catch you back for more action from the shop.